Okay, this is the first time I've tried using this program, so please bear with me. We're going to work right now on 2.5 Part 2, Ordering FDP. So it's Chapter 2, Lesson 5, where we're ordering fractions, decimals, and percents. The most important thing to understand when you're ordering fractions, decimals, and percents is that you have to make them all the same format. If you want them all to be fractions, make them all fractions. If you want them all to be decimals, make them all decimals with the same amount of place values. Just remember that. And if you want to make them all percents, make them all percents. For me, typically, if I had a choice, I would go with percents because I feel like that's something that you guys understand more, comparing grades and all that. So that's probably the method I would normally use, but you'll see as we go where I'm at. So here are some examples that we're going to start with and see if you can catch on. And again, different methods. Everybody has their own thing. I'm going to show you mine. And my first method is using percentages as the format I'm going to put them all into. So we have 2/3, 0.6, and 70%. My 70% is already as my percentage, so I'm good to go there. But my 2/3 and my 0.6 are not. So you should know by now how to go from fractions to percentages. One option is to make that common denominator of 100. It's not an option here because 3 is not going to go nicely into 100. So instead we're going to do top dog in the doghouse, where we divide the numerator divided by the denominator, and with that we're going to be able to get a decimal. So we've got 3 goes into 2, 0 times. Put our decimal here and our decimal here. We add a 0. We're going to annex that 0. 3 goes into 20, 6 times. That's 18. Now normally I would say you could even stop right here and just take a look, but if you notice right now we have 0.6 and 0.6, and I have a remainder, so I know I can keep going here. So since I have a remainder, I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit further. Sometimes we can stop here, but not in this occasion. So I'm going to add another 0, drop it down, and 3 goes into 20, again 6 times. And I think by now you guys have gotten the idea that this is going to go on forever and ever. So I'm going to stop where I'm at because now I have enough to work with. Now I can make this into a percentage. So I'm going to try and do this without making it too incredibly sloppy. But I've got 0.66, and to make this into a percent, decimal to percent is dipper. I go to the right, and now I have to add my percent sign. So 2/3 is actually 66%. So I'm going to write that in a different color here, that this is the same as 66%. And I know it goes on for a lot longer, but I'm not asking you to tell me what the percentage is. I'm asking you for the order. So if this is where I want to stop, that is okay. Now with the next one, 0.6, I'm going to take that and I'm going to move the decimal. Remember that we're on decimals, we want percent. So I'm going to go to the right, and add in a 0 and also add in my percent sign. So 0.6 is the same as 60%. And hopefully you didn't think it was 6%. Remember, you have to go 2 times to the right. So 60%. And then we already knew that this was 70%. Now I'm going to get rid of all my work for a moment, so if you need to look at it, you'll need to pause. Okay, so I just need a little bit more room to write with. So now that I know that this is 66%, 60%, and 70%, I can put them in order from least to greatest. So we're going to have, this is the least, so this is going to be my number 1, 66% will be number 2, and 70% will be number 3. So when I give my answer, and you have to remember, when you give your answer, go back to the original format. So I'm going to make this 0.6, then 2/3, then 70%. Sometimes I think the biggest problem here is making sure that you remember to go back to the original format. So this is our answer. 0.6, then 2/3, then 70%. All right, here's another example for us. 7/10, 67%, and 0.472. If you'd like to try this one on your own, you're going to need to pause the video, and when you come back, I'll be explaining the answer. So if you're going to pause, you need to pause now. All right, we're going to continue on. 7/10, 67%, 0.472. I want to make them all into percentages because I told you that's the way that I like to roll. So I'm going to make them all percentages. This one's already done. 67% is 67%. We're good to go on that one. So I'm going to just leave that as 67%. I'm having a hard time writing because there's a little toolbox there that I'm trying to get away from. So, all right. So that's 67%, and the 7/10. Now we've talked about the way to make 7/10 into the fraction into a percentage is that we can do the per 100 percent. And so to go from 10 to get to 100, we're going to multiply times 10, and what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So I'm going to make that 70, and remember this is a percent, so 70% is what we're looking at. So I know that this is 70%. Now for the decimal going to a percentage, 0.472, when we go from decimal to percent, we do dipper. So we go to the right. Remember, it's only two places. And then add in the percentage sign. So rewriting this nice and neat, it's 47.2%. So now we can put them in order from least to greatest. And we have to decide what that order is going to be. Now 47.2 is obviously the smallest. 67 is the next percentage smallest. And then the largest percentage is the 70%. So when I'm writing my answer, going back to the original format, is going to be 0.472, 67%, 7/10. And there, I've put them in order from least to greatest. And here's another example. This time I want you to do this on your own. It's 1/5, 0.21, and 19%. I'd like you to pause, figure out how you'd like to go about doing this. If you'd like to make them all fractions, you can. If you'd like to make them all decimals, you may. And if you'd like to make them all percentages like I do, then you can do that as well. And when you come back, the answer will be there. So pause now. All right, welcome back. Here are the answers. You should have 19%, 1/5, and then 0.21. And remember, you need to make them back to the original format. I showed up here how I had done mine. I knew that 1/5 was 20%. 0.21 when you go to the right is going to be 21%, and then 19% is already a percent for me. So like I always like to do, I made them all into percentages. I hope that this helped, and you can always use your extra practice problems on page 135 in your textbook to have more examples. Number 24 and 25 and as well as 26 are great examples that you can use on page 135. Thank you so much. Good luck. See you in school.